Hi guys, hope you're all doing well, and I hope that you all have a wonderful week ahead after the Easter weekend. So I recently did a flip through of this mushroom journal that I made as a Tracie Fox creative design team project. Now, I did have a comment on one of my videos asking if I would show some of the signatures and I think how I put the cover together. So because I had done most of the work, I did come on the other day and just film the making of some of the last few pieces of ephemera that I put in here. So I've got that now to show you and just how I add them to the journal. Then there will be another video out in the next couple of days that shows you how I sewed the signatures in. I sew one in for you because the rest were done in the same fashion. And then I show you how I put the front back cover on, which was a bit fiddly, but I got there in the end. It's only fiddly because of my decisions on what cotton to use and stuff. So yeah, I will get on and show you these pieces of ephemera. I hope you get some ideas out of it. I've got a couple of tea bags there that I use to make some tea up to dye my papers for my project. So they're the type that you get that are joined together like this in a pair. And I've just stamped on some text stamp using my brown archival ink, just for a bit of background. Now I'm having a look at my tiny toadstool stamps. They're the Tim Holtz ones. They print so beautifully, these mushrooms, or toadstools. So I'm using my black archival ink there just to stamp one of each image onto each tea bag. And I want to make a hidden paper clip with these. I have this lot of paper that I used for another project and cut off that's already folded up. So I thought I'd just use that because it was handy. And I'm just cutting it down so it sits nicely within my folded tea bags there, so that you don't see it poking out. So I'll make sure it's in and the middle's flush with the middle of the fold in the tea bags, and then just put glue on one side and fold the tea bag over to stick it down. Then I can open up the other side and apply the glue and stick the other side down. That's the way I find it easiest to stick folded pieces together. So it just helps stabilise the tea bags and hide the paper clip a bit better once we put it in. So now I'm grabbing another piece of folded paper to go on the inside of this, and this is the piece that will be slipping a paper clip over. Just cutting it down so it's about the same size. So now I've got to add my paper clip. So what I'm doing is just cutting a little divot in there so that I can sink the paper clip down in there so it doesn't add too much bulk to the spine. Checking that it all fits in there nicely, and again I make sure that the centres are flush with each other, and then just add the glue to the one side. I make sure I put a nice amount of glue on and around my paper clip. Helps hold it in place. And stick the one side down, and then I repeat that process on the other side. So very, very simple hidden paper clip, but I think it's a great way to use up the tea bags that you've dyed your papers with, and adds a nice little embellishment to your journals. It's also functional because you can slip a nice thin piece of paper in there on your page. So there's one that I had made before as well. So I've just grabbed this blank page out of the journal. It's a fly page from a book, just a blank one. And I'm just inking around the edges with my brown Distress Oxide. And I can just slip my paper clip over the edge of the page like that, and it fits on nice and firm. So that's how I will be using that, and then I can just add the page back into my journal. So my next project, I have an old manila file folder that I have cut out with my film strip die. I'm inking that with some black distress ink, then going in with some brown, that's oxide, just layering a few different colours up so it's not all the same. Then I'm going in with my forest moss just to get some sort of dark green tones on there. Grab my water sprayer and just unscrew it, and I'm just dabbing some water and flicking some water on with the little tube. Hopefully it will add a little bit more texture. Then I've got these are acrylic sprays that I've used a lot for spraying bits in this project. So I've got a brown acrylic spray there. So it's just your cheap acrylic that I've mixed up with some water. And I've got a black as well here. And I'm just dabbing it into that just to get some more colour around the place. And then I decided to grab a few of my other die cut bits that I had hanging around. So they've been cut out of hanging file folder, and it's a little negative die there. I thought while I had the sprays out, I might as well do all these bits at once. And I was too lazy to get all my inks out to spray and smush and stuff, so I thought this was a quick way of getting some nice colour on. And I'm doing the same again with these slide dies that I've cut. I should have put my silicone mat down because I ended up with black paint all over the desk underneath because it was so thick. But that's all right because I've got the contact over my desk, which needs changing because it's all lumpy. I always buy contact to put on my desk, but then I must squash it a bit so it ends up all lumpy, which is annoying. So now I'm going in with my oxides and ink just to colour up more where I haven't got the paint. I probably should have waited till the paint dried too, but I was in a hurry. So hopefully I didn't get too much paint on my oxide daubers. Now the colouring's a bit messy in that, but I'm adding other embellishments to it, and it's better than just having it not coloured up. So I ended up really liking the way these turned out. So I just go around the edges with my black distress ink just to define them a bit more. And I remembered to do the inside of my slide windows for a change. Again, I'm just dripping some of the water droplets on there. Hopefully it will react with the oxides. So now I'm back to my film strip because it's dried, and I want to add a bit of paper to the middle section there. I don't want it showing through where the holes are though, because I like them being sort of clear through like on a real film strip. So I'm just measuring up against the slide with my paper to see where I need to cut it. So that's just some old book page as well. It's my go-to blank paper. It's already like vintage looking, so. So just using my Helmar tacky glue to stick the paper onto my slide. Or film strip, whatever you want to call it. And then in the window parts, I have cut out some of the transparencies with that same film strip die. And I kept the little bits that come out of the middle there of the mushroom pattern. So I've just had to cut it down because it's not going to fit where I want it to in my journal with the 4 little windows. So I cut it down to the 3, which is good because I've got 3 little pieces with the mushroom pictures that I want to fit in there. So again, just using my tacky glue to stick these down. The tacky glue has been so good for using transparencies. You can see it when you put it on, but as you press it down, it just disappears. I tend to just put it around the edges mainly in case it does show up at all, or if I go inside a bit, I just put it on the darker printed pieces, but I haven't had an issue with it yet, so I think it would be fine. So that's why I put the paper on the background, just to stabilise it so we could stick a little mushroom slide pieces in. It will also help keep it nice and firm to use as a belly band. So now we've got these little negative die cuts, and I've got all those pictures came out of the Mycologist notebook kit. And I thought, well, they fit really, really well. There's some bigger ones that fit into the windows for the slides, and then there's the smaller ones that fit really well on those negative die cuts. So I thought they would make really fun embellishments. So I've got some stamped pieces that I did ages ago on Old Book Page. I used a lot of the field notes stamps for this and some of my own office stamps. So I'm just using a few of those to help decorate. I'm finding some of my grungy sprayed paper there to back this stamped piece onto. So it fits nicely on the bottom of the slide window there, or the side I should say. It's going to be sort of side on. And then I've got another one of the field notes stamps there, and that fits really nicely on the back of my slide. You could leave it just as a journaling spot as well, that would be nice. I'm just figuring out which direction to put it in depending on which way I'm going to stick my mushroom. So the mushroom fits in there nicely in the window, but I will just corner round it because the window of the slide's corner rounded, so I think it'll look a bit nicer if I do that first and ink around the edges. And then I stick my slide together. The mushroom fits through the window, so I can stick that in afterwards. Saves trying to get the mushroom where we want it so it shows through the window properly. It's easier to do it this way. It's a nice quick embellishment to make. I like the look of the ripped edges sometimes, so just doing a bit of ripping before I stick my mushroom on. That's a stamp of numbers from a very old vintage office stamp that I have. And I decide I want to put something underneath because it's a bit plain as it is. So I rip off some of my book spine that I had handy. It's got this lumpy bit on it though, and so I decide I want to try and get it off, but it's not coming off very easy. So I spend all this time trying to peel it off. And then I had a light bulb moment and thought, well, why don't you just cut it off? I'm a bit slow on the uptake at times. But it will sit a lot better now. So I've made 2 of the slides up, and I'm just going over with a tiny bit of text stamping now. Just brings it together a bit since it's so patchy from my low effort paint adding. And then on the back there, I'm grabbing a couple of my little postmark stamps and a stamp. I think it's a stamp of a stamp. Then I decide I'll put an eyelet in each one in case I want to dangle a bit of chain or something from them, which would look nice, but it would add a bit of bulk. So I just ended up leaving it as just the eyelets, but they add a nice little embellishment too. They're sort of a mossy green colour as well. So now it's time to figure out how I'm going to use my slide piece here. So I decide if I turn it on an angle, it fits better, and then just cut the little corners down so that I don't have to cut half of one of the slides off and have it straight across. And then I just stick, I'm meant to be using it as a belly band, and then I go to put glue all along one of the edges there. So I rub that off and then just put glue on both sides there and stick it down. I do afterwards go and sew just on the corners where I've ripped it off, just to ensure that it stays on nicely. And that made a heaps fun little belly band. Now I have this paper bag. It's one that you get for your bottles of booze, and no, it's not mine. I keep having to stress that. I remember showing one on a video before and someone paying me out. I don't drink, anymore. I drank plenty enough when I was a teenager, so no, I don't drink anymore. So anyway, I managed to fold it in half and then halves again so that I can make it into a page that has either side will sort of flip out, which is really cool. And then I cut the end off the base so that it makes a pocket on both of the ends as well. So I've just gone over with a few of my oxides to bring the colour in, and then I'm going around the edges with my black distress ink. Now I had previously, when I was ink smooshing, just picked up some of the ink splatters afterwards, cleaned up with it, so it's got a few splatters on it as well. So I'm going to embellish just the front of this part that you'll see when you turn the page, so you can see what I sort of intend on doing with it. So I've just got, I think that's baking paper that's stained with inks there. And there's some of my threads from sewing. Just use some more baking paper to help me press my threads into the glue so that they don't stick to my fingers. Then again, using the tacky glue just to adhere one of the transparencies. And I've got some of my sprayed grungy paper there that I want to add to the top. One of Tracie's labels and a stamped label that I did with my grungy cardstock. It was a fun way of embellishing the paper bag. I don't end up embellishing the whole paper bag though. I like to leave some area for the recipient, whoever uses the journal, to be able to actually use some of the spots. So a bit of stamping around the blank edges. I use my stays on for that because these bags are quite glossy. And then I can slip the slide that we made into that little pocket there. And then it will fold out like a page and that. So you can see there how I'm going to use it. So now I've got one of the little negatives that we made with the mushroom on there. And you can see we've got that square that's on that page, and I thought it'd be lovely. It fits sort of perfectly in there. So I'm just going to add some of my oxide sprayed fabric there to the base. Have the frayed edges sticking out, and then put the slide on top. And then I thought to add a bit of interest that I would grab some of my brown embroidery thread. I've been using a bit of that here and there throughout this journal. So I just stick the negative down to the fabric so I know it's going to be where I want it, because whenever I try to sew something without tacking it on first, I end up getting it on crooked. So there's 6 strands in that embroidery thread, so I just halved it, so there's 3 strands for each side. Just trying to figure out if I go down and then up, where the thread's going to end up at the end, because I wanted the thread to be out the top at the start and the end, which worked out great. Then I do a similar thing on the other side. I don't usually do this sort of thing. You know, I don't sew very often, but I thought, well, I'm going to have some fun with this one. I see a lot of people with their grungy journals doing a bit of messy stitching here and there, so I thought that's fine because all of my stitching's messy, so I'll give it a go. Yeah, it's great fun when you do a journal when you sort of don't have to worry about things being messy and stuff. So just cut them to a length that I thought looked good to me, and then stick it down in that square piece. So a lot of the pieces that are in here I did make during my Mass Make March video, which I'll link down below for you as well in case you want to check it out, which was clusters, tags, the dangly tags, all that sort of stuff. I also sprayed all my grungy papers and fabrics during that video as well. Hence why I didn't show much of the making of all of this, because you saw me make all of that and it was just me sticking it in. But I did come on today and show you how I decorated the front of this pocket and how I made some of these slides. I love the way they turned out. I was too lazy to do too much ink smushing and that, so I did, as you saw, just use my acrylic sprays and my daubers just to rub the ink on, and a bit of stamping for those. But I love this paper bag idea because I've got a stack of these bottle bags actually, and usually I'd cut them down to add them, but I really love how you get that effect. And the fun thing is you'd be able to put a little note right back in here. So it'd be like a hidden little journaling spot in there that you could slip in, and then it's, you know, people probably wouldn't think there'd be anything in there. And then you've got the little pocket here as well, and then you can flip this out and stick things on there and write in them. So I really like that idea. So this was another one of the bits that I made with my other slide piece, and I just made a pocket with a bit of offcut of my hanging file folder, which is what I cut the slides out of, old hanging file folder. I got a pile of them a while ago from Marketplace for free. Yeah, so I sewed the fabric onto some more of the folder and stamped on it, and that was fabric that I had already pre-sprayed in the previous video. So this is another one of the negative pieces that we did together, again die cut out of the hanging file folder. So I have invested in a few different die sets that have your negatives and that, because I know I really like them and I find them great to recycle bits and pieces with. So I added one of Tracie's gorgeous mushrooms to that. So of course I'm using the Mycologist notebook kit for my mushroom pictures for these pieces. That's for these little ones and also for the transparencies that I printed on. So we did make one of these tea bag paper clips as well. So they can be removed. You've got to be a bit careful taking them off because you don't want to rip the paper. So you can use them as a normal paper clip and slip a piece of paper in between. I made them even so they can be a little tricky to get on. You just got to make sure this hasn't folded down. Yeah. Once you get them started, they're quite easy, and then I just wriggle them to get them all the way on. Like that. Really love the way the stamping turned out on those as well. And here is our other single slide that I made. And I just backed it onto its embroidery material. It's a really sort of firm one. It's almost wiry, but adds nice texture, and I did a bit of stamping on that as well. And the last thing that we made was this slide here, and I cut one part off because it had 4 little sections. I cut one of them off and just cut the corners down so I could fit it on the angle here. If I fit it going across that way, I would have had to cut down about there, and I didn't want to do that, so I decided just to cut a corner off and put it on the angle, and I really like the way that turned out. And that was made with your manila files. So, and then the transparency from Tracie's kit, which fit really nicely in there actually. So what I did was, you saw I backed the negative film strip onto paper, and then I stuck these little negative bits in there because they come out of this piece here. I die cut that, and these little bits come out of the center of that, and I liked that as a separate embellishment. And then I stuck these little pieces into the windows there, and I really like the way that turned out. So that made a little belly band, and I just made a little journal card to go in there. So that was heaps of fun making that with you guys. I hope you got some ideas out of that. The links will be below to all the other videos, including the flip through for this. So if you do want to have a closer look at some of the bits and pieces, it was heaps fun project, very different for me. I'll definitely be making more like this in the future, I think. Great way to use up the old book cover too. I really like the way that turned out, and I think my binding was a success. We will see. So as I said, in the next couple of days, I do have a lot of projects on the go, so my videos are a bit all over the place, but yes, I have filmed the putting the signatures in and putting the cover together, so in the next few days I'll be able to put that video up for you as well. So take care, be good, and I will see you again soon. Bye.